Hello, everybody. Welcome to the bonus edition of Fantasy NBA Today. It's my 30-team Bruski breakdown extravaganza. It's a sports ethos presentation presented by our great partners at FanDuel. Now, week 2 is in the books. We have a solid, maybe not perfect, but solid sample size. And I think we're going to cover like 150 players here. So we covered a ton earlier, Doc and I, on Fantasy NBA Today, the normal show. And so you just got all that. If you want to go back and get that, check it out. There's just a ton to cover. So we're going to get right into it. Now, since we were on air, a couple of quick updates. Josh Hart, ankle questionable. I'll leave the Josh Hart discussion for our New York Knicks section. Mitch Robb out tonight. I don't think this shifts things too much. The starters are just going to be the starters, and that'll be that. We got Isaiah Collier in for the Utah Jazz. Kessler, as expected, ruled out. So no change in the news there, but it's official now. Jakob Poeltl has been upgraded to questionable as he deals with his back issue. So just something to note there in Toronto. And Zach Edey got assigned to the G League. So his timetable is mostly intact. We covered so much. I'm actually going to skip my must-add player from last night since we did have a show earlier. We'll just go ahead and push right through that. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover the games that happened over the weekend for teams that don't play tonight. And then we will get through the weekend, and then we will get into tonight's action so you guys can get a little bit of a head start on your squads. So the first team we're going to start with here as we jump in. Oh, so please like and subscribe the show before I get too far ahead of myself. I will just get going, and we will never remember all of this stuff. Like and subscribe. Welcome to new viewers. Thank you for your time. And I do hope you enjoy what is essentially 3 days worth of research over the weekend, probably like 20 to 30 hours of research, just pouring through the entire league, looking at every single player in the league, figuring out are they above or below baseline and what the new expectations are going forward. So quite literally, it's the entire league that we're going to talk about here. Well, I'll condense it into the stuff that you need to know, but this is just great. So thank you for that. And let's get going here. So we'll start in Orlando. I think the Orlando topic is kind of a blended one. You've got Paolo Banchero. I think he's so good at what he does offensively that it almost necessarily is it's a diminishment for the players around him. Like, he knows he can get a shot. He knows he could do what he wants. And it just takes away a little bit from what other players can do at their best. And I think we're seeing the early signs of that in Orlando. They're kind of getting things on track, but still players like Jalen Suggs, aside from his injury, he's limping through the start of the season. Desmond Bane is really struggling, kind of hanging out at the bottom of the top 200 there. And that's going to be the story with these guys. Suggs, 19 minutes a game through 5 games. It's probably good news in the sense that he's actually on the floor. And I think we expected a bit of a bumpy start. Numbers are actually not bad for him. So there's a little bit of good news and a silver lining for him, but we need to see him do better. We also need to see him stop goofing around on the court. If you go to my Twitter feed, you will see him shooting a 3-point shot, turning to his bench, doing the thing where he's taking the shot without looking at it going in, and the ball bricks and goes the other direction. And it's just like, come on, man. It's you haven't won enough to be able to do that stuff early in the season. At any rate, I digress. Paolo Banchero, top 70 to 80 with percentages holding him back in a head-to-head setting. If you don't care about percentages, obviously it's a lot better than that. But overall, we want to see Paolo Banchero get into an early round posture regardless of the percentages, so he can be a real, true big boy in fantasy leagues. Franz Wagner, top 60 to start the season with foul shooting holding him back. So if you're looking at the quote rankings and you see Franz Wagner a little bit back, it's that foul shooting. So maybe there's a little bit of buy low potential there. Wendell Carter Jr., a top 100 to 120 play so far this season. 11 points, 9 boards, 3 cash counters. So probably the top of the mountain for Wendell Carter. He kind of does this every once in a while where he looks like he's a versatile producer on offense, and then he just completely disappears for 3/4 of the season. So take that for what you will. And as mentioned, Desmond Bane, just buy low, guys. See if you can toss a top 80 or a top 90. I doubt it'll work, but see if you can do it. I think the entire fantasy universe is standing in unison saying buy low for Desmond Bane. It's all sitting there waiting for him, and it will happen. It's just, will it happen fast enough? And we'll have to wait and see if it will happen fast enough. There's plenty of room for value since he was being drafted at 50 and 55. And and whatnot. A bad week or two is definitely not going to knock him out off of that trajectory. If he can get up to the top 20, 25 level where I had him at in the Bruski 150, he will need to get moving fairly soon, and I think he will. The next game from over the weekend was Golden State and Indy. We'll cover Golden State in a bit. That was Washington that played over the weekend against Orlando. Not that I think it's entirely relevant. This is more just a way to talk about these teams and get them out in the open. But Golden State did play Indiana over the weekend. This was the Quentin Jackson game. There was a lot of different stuff going on that I thought was fun. Stephen Curry doing just fine. Back into the first round start. That's exactly where we were projecting him. Al Horford still doing the back-to-back thing. Nothing new there. He's questionable for this upcoming Tuesday and Wednesday. Jimmy Butler has been good. He's a top 25 to 35 guy to start the year, hitting 90% of his free throws on 8.4 attempts per game. So you're getting the full Jimmy Butler experience. Everything's good. It's happy. I think there's a good chance he plays over 70 games this season, and he might be one of the better B150 values that we see possibly fitting into like a top 20, 25 finish if he could get to that 70th game. So we'll track that. Jonathan Kuminga, top 80 to 90 on the season. It's maybe been a little bit slippery lately. I did notice that the minute that Steve Kerr gave him the thumbs up and the praise and the press that he was the starter, that all of a sudden he started slipping and doing old Jonathan Kuminga stuff. And now the Warriors are upset about losing 2 games. So maybe this is the time where we see Steve Kerr rein this in a little bit. Now, going out publicly and talking about him as a starter, that's putting him in a box. And I think the team wants to be in that box because they want to market Jonathan Kuminga to the rest of the league. But knowing Steve Kerr and his thoughts on Jonathan Kuminga and, how this has worked in the past, I do think they might pull him back a little bit. And right now, with the top 80 to 90 mark, Jonathan Kuminga's got 17.5 points, 1.4 triples, 7.1 rebounds, 3.3 assists. Those are good numbers. 0.9 combined defensive stats. This is the rub with Jonathan Kuminga, is not great defensive stats. He's hitting 53% of his shots from the field. It's a little bit high. 84% from the foul line, also a little bit high. So this top 80 to 90 can look top 100 to 125 real quick when certain things normalize. And then if he's not getting the full boat of minutes, we're back where we started with Jonathan Kuminga. So it's not drop talk. It's not drop time. It's maybe sell high time on Jonathan Kuminga. And that's just a topic we'll be talking about for a little bit here. Brandon Pajemski, top 95 to 115 in his 30 minutes per game, just above the cut line. And, we'll see if Moses Moody gets going and makes this competition. But right now, Pajemski's got it on lockdown. He's your late round guy in Golden State, and they like him, and he's probably going to do this all season. The bad games will be a little bit tough, and it'll stress people out, and there'll be a lot of drop questions surrounding Brandon Pajemski. But for the most part, in 12-team standard leagues, he should be good to go the rest of the way. Now, teams that played Sunday and don't play Monday, we got a few of them here. We had New Orleans at Oklahoma City. This raging dumpster fire in New Orleans is making the Sacramento Kings look good, and that's really tough to do. I turned on the game and watched it, and then kind of turned it off when it got really bad. And then I noticed Derek Queen hadn't played, and then at the end of the game, Derek Queen got in. And it must hurt being a Pels fan. Like you watched what happened with all the draft picks leading up into this year's draft. And then you see they take Derek Queen. And if you went and then looked at the film for Derek Queen, sure, there's some offensive game there, but all the defensive stuff and just the size and the height and the characteristics, like you're just like, no, he can't hang. And he got a couple stats the other night and last couple games. And I even took a flyer. It's like, what if my eyes are wrong and he's just a guy that gets stats and that's that? Well, that ended. And those 7 minutes were really kind of pathetic. I mean, just being honest, like you have all this attention on you and you have, and I feel bad for the guy. Don't get me wrong. Like Derek Queen should not have been drafted this way. It's been a disservice to him. It's a disservice to his career. He should have been drafted lower. He should have had time to develop. He should be on a weight loss program and really trying to kind of, maximize his potential as an NBA player without all of this pressure. But this is not what happened. He's out there, but this guy dogged it. And I get it. The entire team is dogging it right now, but you are front and center and you're not going to chase rebounds and you're going to let guys box you out with practically no effort at all. And defensively, you're just a mark. They're targeting you every time down the floor. And offensively, you all of a sudden pick it up and get energy. That's not good. If I'm a Pelicans fan, I'm just flat out pissed about the whole thing. I probably look for another team. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but it's sad out there. Trey Murphy, top 65 to 90 with just 39.2% shooting from the field. Jordan Poole, top 110 to 125. Similar issues, 37.6% shooting from the field. He's hitting 96.4% from the foul line on 4.7 attempts. So his numbers are bad with that boost in the foul shooting. And this, of course, speaks to the larger epidemic problem with this franchise. I believe that problem is Zion Williamson, top 125 to 200 value in a 9-cat format where the turnovers are really crushing him. 31 and a half minutes a game, 23.7 boards, 4.6 assists. Okay, good, right? 2 steals, good. 0.2 blocks, 48.7% from the field on 16 attempts, 2/3 of his shots from the foul line, 11.4 attempts, 3.4 turnovers per game. I just think the way he plays basketball is not conducive to team winning, and he just hasn't developed as an NBA player. Then you have the injury issues, and yeah, he's uncoverable for certain play types, and it's all great, looks good, and you visualize what a perfect Zion Williamson would be, and it's just not close to what he is. The sooner they get rid of Zion Williamson somehow via trade, the sooner this franchise can heal, and the box score itself can heal. The box score for this team is horrible. Herbert Jones, top 175 to start the year, 27 minutes a game, 9 points. You're not worried about that so much, but 2 triples, 4 boards, 2 assists overall, it's not enough. 1.2 steals, not enough. 0.2 blocks, not enough. And 39.6% from the field. Nobody wants to play basketball right now outside of like Jeremiah Fears, top 140 to 180 for Fears, 26.4 minutes, 14 points, 1.2 triples. Not much after that. The 1.5 steals, you like that. 46.5% from the field on 12 attempts. I like what I see. Looked at him, thought he was too small and not efficient enough to be somebody that I would want to target in drafts, especially during his rookie season. He's quicker than I thought. He's probably a better finisher than I thought. The shooting is coming through right now. It's coming through kind of clutch. Defensively, still the same concerns. My biggest concern probably is the overall chaos in New Orleans, and there not being a solid enough stat set here to really anchor to and say, all right, it's going to go south in New Orleans, and Fears is a player they like. They want him out there. He's good. Normally these are things you want to lean into. The stat set with the dumpster fire franchise, that's kind of freaking me out a little bit. I didn't make big plays for Jeremiah Fears over the weekend. Others did. People were flinging $200, $300 worth of fab dollars out of 1,000 in high stakes to get Jeremiah Fears. I just wasn't going to go there. Yves Missi, outside of the top 200, 23 points, or probably 23 minutes, not points, 8 points, that is. 6 boards, 1 block, ballpark, 68 from the field, 56 from the foul line. He needs the full 30 to be a back-end, late-round guy in standard league. So he's droppable. And Kevon Looney got back in this one. In fact, that's a good thing for Jordan Poole. These guys playing in Golden State, they know each other. They know how to run splits. They know how to run handoffs. And I think there will be an associated bump with Jordan Poole just simply because Kevon Looney exists. And it's bad news for Yves Missi. And I need a shower after that. Oklahoma City, we got Chet Holmgren questionable with a back sprain for Tuesday in LA against the Clippers. You got Jalen Williams, timetable bounced back. I kind of broke my own rule this draft season where I do not take shooting wrist injuries lightly. And when this news hit over the summer, I said, that's not good. Looked into his specific injury, thought, not good. So we got into the preseason. I watched him not shooting with his right hand. Not good. And I'm still drafting him in the 3rd round, and it's been annoying. And it will stop being annoying hopefully soon. But the surgery that they did to deal with the probable, pain that's still there, that seemed maybe procedural, like almost like fallback procedure. If not, everything is fine, or maybe it was in the plans the whole time and they're just not reporting injuries so well in the NBA these days. Imagine that. This is probably another 2 to 3 weeks. So we're going to get all sorts of goodies as a result of that. This Oklahoma City teams has got tons of good stuff going on. You got Shea, top 5 to 7 start. He's fine. Chet Holmgren, back end of the first round start. He's fine. Cason Wallace, top 45 to 60. There was like laughter when somebody, I think it was at Yahoo, I don't know where it was at, but they like ranked Cason Wallace like 20 on accident or something. Well, who got the last laugh now? 45 to 60, 30 minutes a game, 9 points, 1.8 triples, 3.5 boards, 3.3 assists, 3 steals, 0.5 blocks. And he's only hitting 38% from the field. So this could theoretically be better. Cason Wallace is a really good basketball player. And if I were an opposing team, I'd be trying to move heaven and earth to try to get that player, because Oklahoma City has too many players and they can't possibly value him as much as he should be valued. Isaiah Hartenstein improved without Chet Holmgren around to top 70 and 80, 11 points, 11 boards, 3.5 assists, 1.5 combined defensive stats. This is a high water mark. If you want to try to get out from underneath of the Isaiah Hartenstein slog, we'll call it a slog. This would be a great time to do it. I just think with Chet around and this team at full speed, Hartenstein's numbers will come clawing back, and the defensive numbers especially will be the liability there, and his name's bigger in this game. Can't believe I said that finally after 10 years or whatever it was. Isaiah Joe, believe it or not, 2 games, top 50 to 80 value, 16.5 points, 4 triples. So it's like anybody in Oklahoma City might have value. Aaron Wiggins, top 130 to top 140. He's actually been a little disappointing, I think. But the value is there. AJ Mitchell, this is the big name. Top 75 to 85 to start the season, 7 games, 27.5 minutes, 17 points, 1.4 triples, 3.6 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.3 steals, 92.6% shooting from the foul line, and just 1.3 turnovers. So he's an efficiency machine, as is everybody in Oklahoma City. And you got at least a couple weeks here, and it just feels like he might survive this throughout the course of the season. So AJ Mitchell, already probably rostered in the vast majority of competitive leagues. But if you're thinking like, should I get ahead of a drop with AJ Mitchell? Should I sell high? I don't know what you'll get for AJ Mitchell, because I think everybody's thinking the same thing. But I do think that you should be more likely to hold rather than less likely to hold here. And then the other Jalen Williams, top 75 to 100 over the last 4 games. A lot of that is Chet and others being out, but 20 minutes a game. He's getting almost 2 threes, 6 rebounds, 1.5 steals, 1 block in that span, only 35% shooting. He's not turning the ball over. I mean, Lou Dort's the only guy in Oklahoma City who's actually struggling, and that's pretty funny, because he'll probably be good next game anyway. So give all those guys their associated looks and their associated flowers. Utah played Charlotte over the weekend. We'll cover Utah in tonight's action, but Charlotte, they got LaMelo Ball just missed a game with the right ankle impingement, and he's probable. So maybe this is early season load management, but doesn't it make you just feel sick? Like you drafted LaMelo Ball, you did that hard thing that was inadvisable, and then he's just going great, right? And who cares if the basketball is terrible? It's the numbers, right? The numbers are just succulent. It's a top 10 to 20 start for LaMelo Ball. And here's that damn ankle again. I'm so sorry for you guys. It's what a roller coaster. And who knows, maybe it's nothing. I mean, maybe it's the smartest thing in the world. Go easy early and he's just going to be fine. But I don't even have him, and my heart dropped a little bit seeing that report. Brandon Miller's still a huge question mark with the second opinion we haven't heard anything about. Maybe that second opinion just confirmed the first opinion. Maybe it's buried in a heap of news somewhere on a social media platform previously known as Twitter. Who knows? But Brandon Miller is still a massive question mark, at least for me. And other than that, Miles Bridges doing exactly what we thought he would, top 35 to 50. Ryan Kalkbrenner, probably maybe the belle of the ball in Charlotte. It's just weird numbers, but they're good. He had 4 steals, 4 blocks, nothing else in the last game, but it's a top 55 start, however you add it up, to start the season. So 9 points, 6.5 boards, 1.3 steals, 2.1 blocks, 81% from the field. This guy doesn't shoot unless he's like right next to the hoop and his hands are like in the rim dunking. 1.6 turnovers to keep it nice and svelte in 9 cat leagues. But this is really just fun Charlotte Hornets kind of stuff. Like if this was a real team with real competition, with real, I don't know if new ownership's doing a better job than obviously Michael Jordan and old ownership. It's just hard to take these guys seriously. And in comes Kalkbrenner, just kind of, running up and down the floor, getting easy looks and getting steals and blocks. He's big. I think people want to challenge him. He's not quick, so there's definitely a reason to challenge him. And I think this all sort of works out well for him in a way. So I wasn't big on him heading into the season. I don't have him anywhere. I don't think I'll win an award for my B150 ranking, but he is doing well to start the year. That field goal percentage will probably come back to 70, maybe 73 if he has an excellent season. So you'll see some value loss there. I don't think that the steals and blocks are locked in, but you know what? At his size, with what he's got cooking, maybe that's something of a possibility based on the style of play and based on how teams are going to go at him. Moussa Diabate, top 130 to 175. So not completely off the radar, 20 minutes per game. It's the same culprits for him. He's got 72% from the foul line on 4 attempts. It's just dragging him down big time. Just 1 block, 11 and 7. But you know what? And he's playing a little bit desperate. I think watching Kalkbrenner go off, he's probably like, I think this is my job and I got to get out there and do stuff. And he's a little bit over his skis, but not fantasy worthy, I don't think, in standard leagues at this point in time with Kalkbrenner doing so well. Con Knipple, top 125 to 150. It's going to be up and down for him. And he had a good game with LaMelo out. I would actually prefer that LaMelo would be in so he can get better looks, but at the same time, who knows? Maybe LaMelo is such a ball hog that it does not work out better for Con Knipple with LaMelo on the court. I just know that he's a 3-point shooter at heart, and it's really going to, if he had some truly pass first players that could work with him to get him open, I'd be a little bit more excited here. So if you need 3-point shooting, give him a look, but I will not be investing heavily there. Sion James, KJ Simpson, Trey Mann, not doing it. Just in case you were wondering, Sion James has been getting some minutes, been flirting with some productivity, but it's just not there. I don't even think it's there for 14 teams. Colin Sexton has been a late round guy, and he's probably a little bit better than that, but it's been about 100 to 120 for him. Memphis and Toronto played over the weekend. We're going to cover Memphis later. Toronto, you got Pirtle, who's questionable with this lower back issue, and what it's done is given us a chance to look at Colin Murray-Boyles. Now, he's been top 175 for the last 5 games at 22.7 MPG, 10 points, a little over a triple, 4 boards, 1.2 steals, just 0.2 blocks, but despite playing in the paint quite a bit. And that's okay. I like to think that they would like to invest in him and give him minutes throughout the season and just keep feeding him. So if something was to happen to Pirtle, that maybe Colin Murray-Boyles would have some staying power, but that's a lot of ifs rolled up into that statement. If Pirtle's back, I think Colin Murray-Boyles kind of comes back into the top 200, and we don't talk about him much in standard fantasy league discussion, but it's worth noting that he hasn't been bad. And that's, I like this film coming out of college. I just didn't think the opportunity would be there. And I don't think that he's, breaking down any doors right now. But other than that, we've got some pretty good numbers for the main guys. Scotty Barnes, top 20 to 25. RJ Barrett, sell high with top 50 numbers. He looks really good right now. And I think that this might be, we're getting to this kind of peak apex seasons. We all know about the flaws in his game. If he can land somewhere great, it would be nice. But I'm going to guess that it's more probably bad team territory, and who knows how that goes with a bad team. But it feels like they're showcasing him a little bit, or at least giving him, a pretty big green light to go do what he wants. You add it up all together, especially with some of his peripherals. It's a sell high situation for RJ Barrett. Brandon Ingram improved this last week. He's knocking on the door for the top 50. The guy that's not getting it done is Emmanuel Quickly. He's on the outside looking in. Top 120 to 135. Just bad numbers across the board. And it just feels like all these other guys are the primary objective right now. And Emmanuel Quickly's just kind of hanging out. Watched his film over the preseason and here in the regular season. He looked kind of like the same guy. At first, I thought he might be slow. Second game I watched him, there was some burst there that was reminiscent of all the Emmanuel Quickly film we've ever seen. It's just trying to find his footing on a squad that's got a lot of chuckers. That's not easy to do. And it's just 12.7 points, 1.4 triples, 4 boards, 6 assists, and poor numbers. It's 75% from the foul line as well. Usually it's a better number with a little bit more volume, and it's just not working out for him. So it's buy low territory for Emmanuel Quickly. I think you could probably get him for a song. Atlanta at Cleveland over the weekend. So Atlanta, Trae Young out a month, right knee sprain. What a bummer. Alternatively, from a fantasy perspective, you're going to see Jalen Johnson start to go off. He's been a top 25 to 30 guy to start the season with some really good numbers. 80.8% from the foul line on 4.3 attempts is the one that caught my eye. Maybe a little bit of regression there. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, top 85 to start the season. That's 31 minutes a game, a bunch of good numbers, 41.7% from the field, 86.7% from the foul line, 4.3 attempts. So this number might be a little bit rich. There are some holes in the overall stat set for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. This has always been the case with him. We've been waiting for him to kind of take this leap. Defensively, one of the better players in the league. Offensively, I don't like his shot selection. I think he shoots too much. But I'm not going to argue with any of this. He's a must-roster player. Obviously, he's going to have a great month. It just is what it's going to be. I would like to see more efficiency from him overall and better decision-making. I think you would get the best version of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Dyson Daniels starting to get it cooking, which is nice. He had a top 60 to 75 week. Numbers got better. 11.6 boards, 4 assists, 3.3 steals, 0.5 blocks. We're starting to get back into old Dyson Daniels territory. With Trae Young out, this is going to open things up for him. This buy low window has maybe like one more game before whatever the numbers are. I'm not saying he's going to come out and just blow it up and be like a top 20 guy right off the bat here. But whatever happens from here, I think it's going to be better than it will be worse. And then all of the memories of Dyson Daniels' big season, and then all the talk of Trae Young being gone, and all of it's going to kind of snap into place. And it'll be a little bit more obvious that Dyson Daniels is not whatever he's ranked right now. I can't remember. It's like top 100 for Dyson Daniels to start the season. I think people are pretty upset about their draft pick, and a top 50 player with a name would probably do the trick. And maybe even a top 60 or 75 player with a name would do the trick. So try to get in on that while you can. And Onyeka Okongwu, just kind of doing a Kongwu things, 58% from the foul line on 3.4 attempts. Otherwise, he would actually be in a kind of a winners column for the season. And Zachary Sachet is somebody to watch out for. He's really good kind of in relation to what people think about his game. Late last season, he started finishing at such a high clip. He worked on his strength, and he's got all the moves, and he can shoot. He's been buried on this Atlanta squad with some injuries as well. And just 5 games at 23 minutes per game. He doesn't have the best stat set in fantasy. Otherwise, it would be much more vocal, or I would be much more vocal about all of this. But just somebody to kind of keep an eye on, because maybe one more injury and it becomes the Zachary Sachet show a little bit. Cleveland. So Donovan Mitchell played on Sunday after his hamstring day off. Mitchell, a classic load management guy. So I'm hoping that it was just that. I've got Donovan Mitchell in a bunch of different places. So obviously super interested and concerned. Cleveland just 1 game in 4 days. So I would think that he's going to play in the next one. And you have players like Jarrett Allen, who has a fracture in his 4th finger on his left hand. I don't know what they want to do with that. This is the kind of thing that either rest or, just getting lucky and not banging on it in the middle of a basketball game. It's not his shooting hand, and it's just a pain management thing. Would some time off heal it? That's a question for some doctors not named me. He's questionable for this one, and he's been struggling. So this is a little bit of bad news, I think, because I don't know that he's going to get any relief from this. Sam Merrill, questionable right hip contusion. He's been great to start the season, but he's been out, so it hasn't really stood out as much. But he's been a top 40 to 55 player in 26 minutes, 17 points, 4.5 triples, good efficiencies. They need him. So if somehow Merrill was dropped, I can't in good faith tell you not to pick him up with those numbers. And yeah, there's going to be some players coming back over time, but you see some players also leave. And I don't think the depth in Cleveland is what it was last year. That's for sure. Mitchell, top 15 to 30. Mobley, top 25 to 30. Mobley's percentages are pretty bad. 69% from the foul line on 6 attempts, really dragging it down. This is all early season stuff, so I wouldn't get too worried about it. Evan Mobley's going to be just fine. Allen has mentioned top 100. Hunter's been better this week. And he's in that same range, and as guys get injured, Hunter will probably have a top 75, top 50 ceiling at the best. And then when they're healthy, it'll be back in the top 100 to 125 range. The guy that's been probably as interesting as any in Cleveland is Jalen Tyson. He's not going to be great this season. He's got a top 115 to 125 number over the last 4 games, 28 minutes, 14.5 points, 3 triples, 3 boards, 2 assists, 1.6 combined defensive stats, mediocre percentages, but it all adds up. And if you need a warm body at the back end of the roster, he's pretty consistent right now. If the injuries stay in this realm for Cleveland, I think Jalen Tyson will have a little seeing eye single through and be worth it for some of you guys in, say, like 12 to 14 team leagues. Let's move it along to Philly. Played Brooklyn. Talked a lot about Adem Bona in the last show, so we'll get to that in a second. But real quick on the injury front, Kelly Oubre probable for the first game of the back-to-back Tuesday. A little ankle injury in Sunday's game. So far, so good. And maybe, who knows, that thing got cold overnight, and we hear about it today in some news, or maybe tomorrow, but so far, so good. The one that caught my eye was VJ Edgecombe. Somebody knocked his calf, and he just kept going back to the calf. And calves of, the injury of the year as far as what we're talking about and worrying about and all those things. And he stayed in the game, but, it was a good 2 to 3 minutes of just reaching over and trying to massage out that calf. And it looked like, I couldn't remember the player who got him, but with their knee, it got him pretty good. And I don't know if that hit any kind of reporting at all. It's just these little things you see during the game. That's why film work is so important with this stuff. You see these things. I remember when Rashawn Holmes had like 10 of them in a season. I watched a ton of Kings games, and then all of a sudden he just crumpled into a pile of not being productive. And it was like, no, it was the 10 injuries that he got that nobody talked about. Back to valuations, though. Adem Bona, top 170 to 185 over the last week in 4 games at 17 minutes per game, based entirely, talking entirely on 2.8 blocks per contest. So obviously this isn't working, from a starting standpoint. If he's in your lineup for whatever reason, you're just grimacing and watching this and watching opportunities in the Philly games where, like, Joel Embiid's out and he can't stay on the floor due to foul trouble. In this last game on Sunday, the game was over by the 3rd quarter, so I don't think he went back into the 4th quarter because of that. He's also standing around on the outside and sometimes in the corner in 3-point land, but mostly in an extended dunker spot as they're really pushing everybody out with this 4-guard lineup a lot of the time. And what I sense with them is they're working out kind of option A, option B, option C, option D stuff. And they'll get to Bona at some point in time down the road. And it might be the case that it happens when Joel Embiid can't hack it. And the questions surrounding Joel Embiid right now, if you read Keith Pompey out of Philly and others in Philly, is, okay, cool, you made it through the game. You get some stats. That's fun. But are you actually going to defend anybody at any point in time? He literally can't jump out there. He doesn't do the jump on the tip. And I get it, that kind of full extension on jumping, it's very risky for a guy like him. And so at what point in time does the aesthetic of Joel Embiid playing give way to the reality that you have other players that need the ball in their hands? And you've got Paul George coming back soon. And you got 3 players in Quentin Grimes, VJ Edgecombe, and Tyrese Maxey that have been just tearing the league on fire. Now, their schedule's not been that tough, something to keep in mind with all this stuff. But Paul George coming back is going to need some shots. It's already tough in that regard. And then you have identity. Like, Joel Embiid changes the entire identity of the team when he's on the floor. And do you want that identity, which, by the way, is flopping and drawing fouls? Or do you want the identity of VJ Edgecombe going through the lane and yamming on you? It's going to be VJ Edgecombe yamming on you. There's no question about this from a basketball perspective. You don't want Joel Embiid as the centerpiece of your team. And at some point in time, I wonder, I don't know the contract details off the top of my head, but man, I'd be thinking trade. Like, get this guy out of here. I'll take whatever you want to give me back. Give me a bagel and I'll give it back. Now, Joel Embiid, from a fantasy perspective, since I'm talking so much about him here, top 85 to 120 in 8 and 9 cat leagues respectively through 4 games, 22 minutes. 17.3 points, 1.8 triples, 5 boards, 3.5 assists. Okay, sounds okay-ish. We'll thumbs up that. But 1.5 combined defensive stats. Has never been a big defensive stat guy, but he always got you something there. 46% shooting from the field, 8 80% from the foul line on just 5 attempts. So one of the main value centers for Joel Embiid, even though he's flopping and this entire offense is dedicated to drawing fouls, not getting to the line the way he used to. So not giving you that heavy free throw boost. And then the 2.8 turnovers per game. Okay, I can play devil's advocate on this and say it's early and give him a little bit to get going. I actually think it's the opposite. I think the more this guy plays, the more risk, the more mileage, the more there's probably the less explosion that he has. So Philly's going to come up against a choice at some point. It's going to be let the young guys play, or what are you doing about Joel Embiid? And then, by the way, your best defensive look with Adem Bona is just sitting there waiting for you. And, oh, by the way, once that guy figures out foul trouble, it's going to be 27, 30 plus minutes in games that Joel Embiid doesn't play. And then what if Joel Embiid gets hurt? What if they decide simply, Joel, you're a 20-minute guy off the bench. We start Bona, it's a 28-20 split. We get out of the Andre Drummond game, which is, everybody knows what that game is. You don't really need to know much to know how that goes for teams. They don't really want to play Andre Drummond. They do it out of necessity, and then you mess around with Dominic Barlow in the power forward slot and have a really super athletic team. Paul George fits in, hopefully for their sake. And then you'd start to deal with, what are we doing with all these numbers? Like Tyrese Maxey is your number 4 fantasy play to start the season. He's getting 42.4 minutes per game. Massive line. 34 points, 4 plus threes, 5 boards, 9 assists, 1.2 steals, 0.8 blocks. Great percentages. Just shout out Tyrese Maxey. Like, you are just crushing it. And then you get VJ Edgecombe, top 30 to 40, 39 minutes per game. I don't know when the last time a rookie played this many minutes. Somebody can try to tell me that, but that's just an amazing start. Edgecombe is one of my favorite players in the league already. He almost killed a guy last night, and he didn't even make the dunk. And I just was like, I got to post this. This is too amazing. Huge line there, and 50% shooting from the field on 15.5 attempts. I think he's got it in him to be an efficiency guy because he's going to get a lot of dunks. He's going to get a lot of easy shots. But that's still a really rich number to kind of hang your hat on. So it is a sell high moment for VJ Edgecombe. Just be super picky, like beyond picky, and make sure anybody you're getting back in return is super durable. Keep an eye out for the cap thing. I can't imagine it's anything serious. I can't even imagine. Or I would say this, I don't think we'll probably hear about it more. It's just one of those little weird things I see during a game, and I got to note it. Kelly Oubre, top 40 to 50 in 38 minutes per game. And yes, Nick Nurse does this, but this is a lot of minutes, guys. And then we do have Paul George coming back. Almost 20 points for Kelly Oubre, 2.5 triples, 6 boards. He's getting you almost 2 defensive stats per game, 52.6% shooting. And this is where the strength of schedule is kicking. The entire team is shooting out of their mind. So if you're, whether it's from a fantasy perspective or from a Vegas perspective, you're going to need to fade these guys a little bit because those shooting numbers are going to come back. Teams are going to figure out how to defend this guard lineup, and they're going to make them pay for Joel Embiid. And that's going to be the story of the game. Quentin Grimes, a B150 guy, basically producing right where he was ranked, top 60 to 80 so far in the season, 32 minutes, 18 points, 3 triples, 5 boards, 5 assists, 1.3 defensive stats. Percentages aren't even that good right now. And he's bringing back this value. And, the ADP for him was like 120 to 140. It really, really soured right at the end of draft season. And it was just cleanup time. One of my favorite B150 plays of the year. Let's get out of Philly. Let's get to Chicago, who played New York. Kobe White still not day-to-day. And what's interesting is the great Julia Poe, who covers this team, said it's not a 2-week timetable just outright. It's a 2-week timetable without any running or cutting. So that was a report from October 20. And so we're basically 2 weeks out. So I don't think he's run or cut yet. So I think the running and cutting piece has got at least a week associated with it, and maybe even another week after that. So if you're timing all of these values, that's what you're looking at right there. Ayo Dosunmu questionable for Tuesday with his left quad issue against the Sixers. So we'll keep an eye on that. It'll be a good test for Philadelphia since we were just talking about them, by the way. Nikola Vucevic doing the thing where he starts off with early round value, top 15 to 20 there. Josh Giddey, top 35 to 50. The 72.2% from the foul line on 6 attempts and 3 turnovers, 3+ turnovers. That's really the culprit here for his value. There's a little bit of a buy low window if somebody wants to look at, way too early ranks and assign Josh Giddey as something of a bust. He's not going to be a bust. He's going to be a top 20 guy at worst this season. Trey Jones with some top 50 basketball so far, 30 minutes a game, all sorts of goodies, a little bit rich from the foul line on 3.7 attempts. So maybe in a normal 30-minute per game universe, in this situation, he's more of a 75, 80 or 90 guy, but who cares? He's going to just ball for the next couple weeks. And then when Kobe White comes back, it's probably drop. But it's also, I like that term, seeing eye single. He might see his way through to some fantasy value on the whole season with everybody healthy, because it just feels like it's going well in Chicago. And this was a theory actually I talked about in the last show. When I sat down and did the B150 projections, I was looking at the impact that Josh Giddey had on everybody else's numbers, because I was the second player on his team that I looked at. I can't remember who, but it was like, oh damn, they had like a career year in this one segment for shooting, because Josh Giddey was on the team, and you just noticed that across the entire team. And I thought, oh boy, Chicago, they're probably going to be better than people thought. So we took the over there on the win totals, and they've gotten off to a fast start, and they're profiling well. And it shows as guys like Kevin Huerter, top 70 to 85 ball. Ayo Dosunmu, top 85 to 115. The one guy who doesn't get a piece of this, and it's kind of classic Billy Donovan, is Modest Bacelis, just top 100 so far in 28 minutes per game, 29 more or less, 16 points, 2 triples, 4 boards, 1.6 combined defensive stats. Just not enough volume here. It's not one thing here. It's just like, I need more. And then there's times where he's like the only guy not getting minutes, and it's just classic Billy Donovan. He's telling Modest Bacelis, you're not the dude yet. You're not the dude yet. And he's got to be the dude if he's going to match the ADP. And this is the toughest calls in fantasy sports, is the hype guy, with whatever problem. Are you going to lean into it? Is he going to bust through? The film on him is outstanding. Like, I could build a team around this guy defensively, and yet at the same time, it's just not there for him. And I don't know if it's concentration. I don't know if it's, what's kind of the leading thing for Billy Donovan, not really just letting him out there and go and giving him more touches and making him more of a focus. And even just like the defensive rebounding thing. I don't understand why he doesn't rebound better. And maybe it's just Vucevic standing there and vacuuming up. Maybe it's Josh Giddey vacuuming them up. Those were definitely concerns that kind of kept me sidelined on the Modest Bacelis stuff heading into the season. Let's get into San Antonio at Phoenix. That was a fun, sad one. Phoenix kind of bottled up Wemby a little bit. And so that was the first time we'd seen that this season, first loss for San Antonio. But the bad news was Dylan Harper left the game, really struggling, not like horrifically, but, he was hobbled, and then they was walking out with a boot, and it's some sort of a calf injury. We'll probably hear news about that at some point in time during the show, probably, if I had to guess. I wonder if this speeds up the De'Aaron Fox timetable. So we'll keep an eye on that, but maybe, probably not. And it feels like the writers are circling November 5th for whatever reason as a De'Aaron Fox return. I'm going to get the schedule out while we're talking here. But the actual game for them is figure out when that is and when the next one is after that as we go here. But it feels like they're circling that game, and that's going to be the game that they want him to come back. So San Antonio does not play Tuesday. If they play tonight, which they do not. So yeah, it's Wednesday, the 5th. So I'm thinking it's Wednesday, the 5th against the Lakers. I kind of thought that wouldn't be a great game to drop Fox back in the mix. Probably a lot of eyeballs on that game. And there will be a lot of eyeballs on that game. Currently 5-1 and 5-2, these two teams. A lot of star power in this game. So who knows? Maybe they drop Fox right into the ether. But in the meantime, Stephon Castle, depending on your format, is either a top 65 guy in the season or he's a top 150 guy. 4.7 turnovers per game, 63% from the foul line on 7.7 attempts. Only in America. The good news, there's good news about Stephon Castle, is he actually got a little bit normal this week. So this week, he was a top 20 to 30 guy. Now imagine that for a second. I mean, I've been personally not giving Castle like some heroes welcome on this show because of those aforementioned percentages and the turnovers and what it realistically does, either in a roto setting or even in a head-to-head. I mean, maybe you're punting perfectly with Stephon Castle, and more power to you if you are. But this last week, 72% from the foul line, so not like horrific, not horror movie status, 8.3 attempts. And then the turnovers are down to 3 a game. So the other counter to that is he's hitting 57.5% of his field goals on 13 attempts, and that's not going to keep up. But overall numbers, 20 points, 1.5 threes, 6 boards, 5.5 assists, 1.8 steals, 0.5 blocks. The numbers are there, and 55% from the field. That will come back. So 65 to 150. Dylan Harper is now out for a little bit. If you had questions about should you keep going with Stephon Castle in light of De'Aaron Fox returning, I think the answer is yes. You're going to keep going with Stephon Castle. Absolutely. Even in a 9-cat scenario where all those numbers are all bad, I think turnovers, you could probably find a solution for foul shooting. Maybe you plan for this going ahead, but I think you just go with Stephon Castle, see where this all heads. Harper was 125, 150. And before he got injured, he did some stuff on the floor. It was really scary. Like the Spurs with this crew, I mean, I wouldn't rule anything out for these guys. I probably respect them more than I respect Cleveland. And in the West, there's probably a larger conversation to be had. But I would not just throw the Thunder out there and be like, oh, they're going to walk all over the Spurs. Why do we even watch? One's projected to win whatever the number was, 62.5, I think, for Oklahoma City. And the Spurs were some much lower number. I forget what it was, like 42 or 43. And we just slammed the crap out of the over. I wouldn't rule out the Spurs beating the Thunder in a Western Conference Finals. And I can't wait to watch that. Wembanyama makes basketball so much fun to watch. And it's just a trip. Go Wemby. I freaking love it. He's still the number 1 fantasy play, by the way. Nikola Jokic outplayed him this last week. So it's not a runaway for Victor Wembanyama just yet. And it's a little sad that Devin Vassell's outside of the top 150, and I don't think he's coming back. So we didn't get actually to talk about it on today's earlier show, but I would, for like Colin Gillespie, I would drop Devin Vassell for Colin Gillespie. No questions asked. And speaking of which, Phoenix, the other side of this game that was played yesterday that we're talking about as an excuse to break down these teams. Let's get to some injuries first. Dylan Brooks doubtful for Tuesday at Golden State. Jalen Green playing a lot of 5-on-5, and I feel like he's played enough 5-on-5 where that comeback game is probably Tuesday, but at minimum by the end of this week. So Colin Gillespie, top 50 on the season. I had him as a 10th rounder. I wanted to go higher. I just couldn't bring myself to go higher. I should have gone higher. Not that it mattered because not a single soul outside of Sports Ethos even had this guy remotely on the radar. He's averaging 25 minutes per game, 12 points, 3 triples, 3 boards, 5.4 assists, 2.2 combined defensive stats. This is why the film work matters, guys. This is why, I love coming on here and talking, but I would not be able to do it unless I did all the research. I would feel like I was selling you guys crap, to be honest. So watching Colin Gillespie, first it was the reports out of Phoenix last year, then it was seeing it with my own eyes, then it was rewatching it over the summer and being like, yes, this dude can play. He's like kind of, I hate the white guy to white guy comparison, but it's like Austin Reeves without the length. He's that good. So, saw him during the preseason and it just was like, yeah, of course this is going to happen and it's going to happen here. And yeah, Jalen Green could come back and theoretically Jordan Ott can say, hey, you're going to play 16, 18 minutes. I think he'll be fine in 16 to 18 minutes, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be earth shattering. And I don't think it's going to be 16 to 18 minutes. They're already writing about not doing that in Phoenix. And I think every time that Jordan Ott and others on the team have talked about Colin Gillespie is like, they understand how good he is. This isn't a surprise to them. So when people are talking about it, they're not surprised. Neither are we. So Colin Gillespie, must roster player and top 50 so far on the season. 25 minutes per game is probably what he's going to get on the season on the low side. So a guy that's not even on anybody's lists other than here is going to possibly finish inside the top 50. I freaking love it. This is why we do all the work. And this is why we get excited about this stuff. Royce O'Neal, top 60 start for the year. It's really cool. It's also a little lame because I don't look at Royce O'Neal, pardon me, and think, oh, this guy's just a killer and he's going to have a great year. In fact, I looked at the players behind him and Rashid Fleming, if I'm getting that correct. Is it Rashid or Rashard? I can't remember, but he looked great in film. Nigel Hayes looks great on film coming out of the Euro League or wherever he played in Europe. I watched a ton of that film and I was like, damn, that guy can play. So I didn't come into the season gangbusters on Royce O'Neal or even Ryan Dunn. I probably got Ryan like nowhere. But so far it's Royce O'Neal, top 60 start to the year, 33 minutes. That's Rashir Fleming. Thank you so much, Andre. 13 points, 3.6 triples, 6 boards, 3 assists, 1.7 steals. I'm in high stakes and people aren't even bidding on this guy. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? But thank you so much. I appreciate this for making Royce O'Neal so affordable for me. It's getting him for like 60, fab dollars. It's a nice svelte 60 to go with his top 60 play to start the season. And he does this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting the potential for Royce O'Neal to do what he's done as recently as last year, which is 2 to 3 or 4 good weeks. All of a sudden, boom, nothing. But I do think this team is playing connected basketball, and I think they're going to win more games than people think. And I think there'll be a better vibe around this team than people think. I think the Dylan Brooks thing is annoying. I don't like him as a player. I don't like the way he plays. I think he's a dirty basketball player, but there's something about what he brings to a team that gives them a certain swag. So you got to credit him for that. And they just pass. And Grayson Allen, another guy, he got banged up to a bruise to his core, which I'll take that in the world of Grayson Allen injuries. Last year, fat Grayson Allen cost me a kind of Colin Gillespie-like, though people had heard of Grayson Allen, like 180 ADP kind of a play where, he didn't actually perform. This year, he's a top 75 guy all over the place, playing 35 minutes a game, 16 points, 3.4 triples, 3.6 boards, 5 assists, 1 steal. This is peak Grayson Allen stuff. And when you get guys like Allen and Brooks, who was top 50 to 60 before he left, and Royce O'Neal and Colin Gillespie and Devin Booker finally started shooting the ball and scoring, like good things happen. Ryan Dunn, top 85 to 105, 24 minutes a game, 10 points, all the kind of defensive goodies. It's a 2.9 cash counter, 6.4 rebounds. And when you add it up all with the efficiency and maybe in a head-to-head, it doesn't look so good, but 85 to 105 for Ryan Dunn. And he's not going anywhere. Like Coach Ott loves him. He's not going anywhere. Mark Williams even getting better, top 70 to 90 over 6 games. He's hitting just 68.4% of his foul shots. That's why that number is lower than what you might think at this level of 25 minutes per game. 11.5 points, 9 boards, 2.4 combined defensive stats, 60% from the field. Very Mark Williams like. That free throw number is going to bump up. His per game is going to go into the top 50 to 60 range. And he is kind of looking healthy and they're doing the right things there. Now, obviously this could all change, but I look at what Phoenix, at least on the floor, with their coaches, I don't think I can speak for ownership, but the basketball equation on the floor seems to be healthy. They're doing the Mark Williams timetable really nicely. Now he doesn't have a back-to-back this week. And so you might see Mark Williams. You might start seeing some noise there. So if you want to try to buy low on a risky Mark Williams, go out there and do it. All right, we're to the teams playing Monday. Before we jump into Monday, if you're a new listener, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining the show. We love you all. Send some questions in the chat. I'll get to them after the show. I'm going to be doing questions on Twitter. I got a waiver wire column that I'm going to polish off and put out after this show. Get connected. Get your subscribe buttons hit with YouTube. Follow Ethos Fantasy NBA on Twitter. And just get connected to what we're doing here. We're trying to put out the best free content. We're putting out the best premium content that can power your team to victory. And most importantly, we want to invest in this great industry. And you guys can just support that by simply being here. And hopefully all this information will lead you to a championship. And I'm pretty sure it will. Teams playing today. Let's get after it. Minnesota at Brooklyn. Anthony Edwards is cleared for contact. He won't play in this one unless something weird happens. But in the meantime, as that timetable just got shorter, Julius Randle's been a top 12 to 15 pardon me, player. That's obviously coming back. That's sell high stuff. We all know that. Mike Conley's been on a mid-round run over the last 3 games, 9 points, 5 assists, 1.7 steals, 1 block, 1.7 triples. He's still got it. Terrence Shannon Jr. has been completely forgotten in Minnesota, so that is a disappointment and something to just watch over the long term. But it doesn't look like it's happening for him this season in a fantasy context. Brooklyn, on the other side, they are so hard to watch between Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Thomas chucking up bad shots. It's just terrible. It's terrible basketball. It's just terrible. That's all I got. Porter Jr. top 75, Cam Thomas top 120 to 165 in 8 and 9 cat leagues, respectively. Thomas gets you 24 points, 2.5 triples. And outside of the 88% from the foul line that he's getting on 8.3 attempts per game, which is pretty good. I mean, he's actively hurting you in either 5 or 6 categories. It is bad. Nick Claxton has leveled out as a late round value. We got, looks like on FanDuel here, is it Wolves -9? Nets +9. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably take the Wolves here. I think there's a little bit of injured star theory working here. I'm a little bit concerned with some of the rich numbers, but Brooklyn is so bad right now. I don't think people understand how bad Brooklyn is at 0-6. What level of a bad 0-6 is this? This is pretty up there. But Terrence Mann's been fairly good. 85 to 110. That's great for Terrence Mann. He's done this in the past. He's hitting 60% of his shots. That's probably why this number is what it is. But, when you're looking out of the Porter, Thomas, Claxton kind of triumvirate for like, where are you going to get value out of Brooklyn? Maybe it's Terrence Mann, and that tells you everything you need to know. Milwaukee at Indy. This is the game Doc and I were really salivating about earlier in the earlier show. Kevin Porter out for a month. You already know that. Giannis is taking games off already, which is just one game, but it's something to keep an eye on as we go here. Now, Ryan Rollins, bell of the ball, top 20 to 25 start with massive numbers: 18.2 points, 2 triples, 4 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2.3 steals, 53.9% shooting from the field. That's one to watch. 88.2% foul shooting, and the turnovers are great. But so these numbers are coming back. I mean, they're coming back for a variety of reasons. The shooting's going to come back. I think the hope that you have is that Giannis does play and stick around, and that this team doesn't get too bad too fast, because Ryan Rollins can start to dip in field goal percentage with the best of them. And if the offense gets jammed up, he won't be having the kinds of games that he's having. But Rollins is a player I think we all like. He's been, athletically profiling as somebody you want defensively. Maybe some imperfections there, but really it's a good, solid player. Better than Cole Anthony, better than Gary Trent. Like, he was the one out of those guys that you wanted to do good and you wanted to see him go, because this was the hope. And then the hope is now here. Now KPJ is going to come back in a month. If Giannis leaves / pouts / protects an injury, maybe it's the other way around for that order, with everything that's going to go on with Giannis. Because frankly, Giannis can't win in Milwaukee. I think he knows it. Maybe he doesn't know it, actually. But I think the people around him know it and are probably whispering into his ear that he's not Superman and he can't drag this team across the finish line. Now, that's sad. What are they? Milwaukee is, well, they're not on my board right now, but they are, I think, 4-2 or something, if I had to guess. Yeah, 4-2 is Milwaukee. And so far, so good. And Giannis is a legitimate top 6 to 7 value. Hell, I could have led with this. Giannis in a Roto league is a top 6 to 7 value, even with his 64.3% shooting from the foul line on 11.2 attempts per game. The numbers are massive. They're eye-popping. I don't even need to read them. He's almost hitting 70% from the field, so that's something of an outlier. Maybe this could kind of continue in, some kind of like almost heroic last stand in Milwaukee, where he's the only guy there to do all of the things, and everybody else, Miles Turner included, just stands and watches. I kind of think what happens is Miles Turner gets more integrated in the offense as soon as tonight, by the way, against his old team in Indy. Doc sniffed it out on the prior show. The FanDuel number there is like a first half plus 4.5 points, I believe is what it was. I never got the total, but he's averaging under 10 points per game. Miles Turner, 9.8 points, under 2 triples, 6 boards, 2.5 assists, 0.7 steals, 0.8 blocks, 39.3% shooting from the field, 50% from the foul line. It's like all bad for Miles Turner right now. Buy low is definitely in play here. I'm concerned about the overall long-term picture. I don't rate Miles Turner as a top 30 guy going forward. I don't rate him as a top 40 guy. I don't rate him as a top 50 guy. Something in the 60 to 70 range for Miles Turner. But and maybe that eliminates a buy low here, because that's kind of what you're going to get. And now you're aiming for the top end of the equation, leaving only loss and sadness. But Miles Turner, I do think this is a great buy low, because if maybe I'm wrong, like what if he goes top 50 and you get him at top 75? That's actually a pretty significant jump in value, and you're doing it right with that. But sad story for Miles Turner so far. But Giannis, if Miles gets going, KPJ comes back, Giannis, doesn't hit all of the field goals, he doesn't get all of the offense. What was his attempts per game? Giannis is shooting the ball like 24 times or something. I'll get that here in a second. It's just a ton of volume, and that's going to claw back. So it's still high for Giannis right now. It's still high for Giannis. And then Bobby Portis is basically a corpse out there, and I don't know if that's changing. On the Indiana side, you got the Quentin Jackson question, which is super interesting. He had a massive game, 25, 6, and 10 with 6 cash counters against the Warriors. He picked Steph Curry at one point, went down, and I think he either assisted on the dunk or got the dunk. It was a big game for him. It was a big game in a big spot. Top 80 to 90 value in 4 games this season, 20 minutes per game. We saw this last year, I believe. It felt like he was injured for an entire season, but it's not the case. He had a couple of explosive games, and you thought, this is a guy that could be a part of their plans going forward. Then everybody goes down. As everybody started going down, looking at the Indiana Pacers roster and thinking this guy could do something, and seeing him available in 30 deep, I got him on day one. So I'm pretty stoked about that. This is a big time week or two for him. And I think you just buy into these situations and maybe you'll get a little more. And it's not like Indiana's just overflowing with health right now. When these guys all come back, there's going to be risk for re-injury, and they're not exactly, in the case of Andrew Nembhard, super healthy to begin with. So, TJ McConnell, not a long-term healthy guy. There's some opportunity here if all that works out for him. And at the same time, we want this to work out because everybody's struggling in Indy. Pascal Siakam, top 110 to 140. What is it? It's the 44% shooting from the field on 20 attempts, 57% shooting from the foul line on 8.5 attempts. Like, it's once you start shooting the ball poorly, it just seeps into everything. So foul shooting, it becomes more of a challenge. It's the exact opposite when things are going well. The hoop looks massive, and the hoop is tight right now in Indy. Jarris Walker, same story. A little bit better this week with top 115 to 135 returns. 14 points, just under 3 triples, 6 boards. That sounds great, right? A steal. 88 or 81% from the foul line even looks good. But 31.7% shooting from the field, 14 attempts. On the season, this is why he's down in the bottom of the top 200. So a lot of big waiver plays on Jarris Walker. I've been making them. I hope that they just get one player back or 2 players back, and this just, I'll take a little less, popcorn stats just to get the efficiencies right and something sustainable. But if he gets this up to 40, 43, 45%, the value swap on that could be really significant. Jarris Walker could have top 75 value the rest of the way. I think it's going to take one player coming back at minimum. I would like to see that be Andrew Nembhard. I think he's the guy that most closely replicates what Tyrese Halliburton does for this team, which is their entire offense is getting up and down the floor and getting into sets super quick and putting the defense on their heels instead of this kind of lollygagging, which is what happens when you have Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson being implemented into this particular mix the way that they have. Both these guys are at the bottom of the top 200 over the last 3 games. Tony Bradley hasn't been a thing. Ben Shepherd hasn't been a thing. Who's finally been a thing, and thank God, is Aaron Nesmith. The dude was shooting like 20% from the foul line, 20% from the free throw or from the field. It was like so bad. And finally, the regression hit. 31 points, 5 triples, 6 boards, 52.6% from the field in that game. He hit all 6 of his free throws. So he kind of got it all back in one night. And this is a guy, he's like one of the top 10 defenders in the league, I think. Hits big time shots. It's not like I'm worried about him at all. It's just this overall question of efficiency for Indiana. So just count the good players coming back, and that will be your North Star there. Washington at New York. Chris Middleton questionable with the left elbow contusion. That caught my eye. The sooner that thing happens, the Chris Middleton kind of fades off into the distance, the better for everybody involved. That said, Keyshawn George, B150, possibly B150 player of the year, ranked him around 70. His ADP was in the 120, 140 range. Maybe a little bit sooner in a very super competitive situation, but top 25 to 35 this season. And a great start. Alexander Sarr, top 40 start. Now, one game against Joel Embiid might be moving these numbers by about like 35 ranks, but I digress. Everything's in the right spot. 53% shooting from the field. That's probably coming back a little bit. 2.2 blocks, 0.7 steals, full stat line, 75% from the foul line. So you could not be happier if you had took a little bit of a risk on Alex Sarr, considering some of the injury stuff that always seems to pop up with him. Bilal Coulibaly will be somebody that everybody's watching tonight. A pair of top 80 games to start, 25 and a half minutes. All the Bilal Coulibaly stuff that you're normally accustomed to. These numbers are actually not inflated by any percentages. The percentages are mediocre for this 2-game sample. So this is good. This is a good start for him. So we'll see if he can keep it up. Another one that folks will be watching, especially myself, since I had Trey Johnson widely touted as a pickup last week. He battled a back issue last week. He had the return of Bilal Coulibaly. So he's kind of fallen back a little bit. Top 115 in 6 games, 26 and a half minutes per game, 13 points, shooting guard stats, low defense, low field goal percentage so far to start, good turnovers. I like the fact that there's a generalized consistency to his numbers when he plays, and more or less the numbers are going to be there if the minutes are going to be there for Trey Johnson. Now we got to see that play out with Bilal Coulibaly back, but I think he's enough of a priority and he's enough of an answer, and he can get his own offense to where he's not going to be impacted as much by the folks around him. Now, CJ McCollum's been bad to start the year. This is another guy we can pull the hook on, and it would be a good thing for Washington, or maybe at least drop him down to 25 minutes per game or something like that. 14 points, 2.5 triples. All the points and stuff are there, all the popcorn stats, but the defense is barely there at all. He's almost at a 0 defensively, and 37% for the field's not cutting it. Chris Middleton outside the top 225. Bub Carrington, bottom of the top 250. I think those guys are dropped. Like Carrington's like an automatic drop, I think. I don't see anything happening good for him this season in Washington unless multiple players get hurt. And even then, I just think he's not a stat guy at this stage in his career. Cam Whitmore, I think the dream is dead there if you were dreaming at all. I wasn't. I was dreaming about Justin Champagnie and Tristan Vukcevic, and they have barely played basketball this season. I think at some point in time, they'll go from the old dudes to the young dudes, and then when that happens, we will race to pick those guys up. But for now, you can safely drop them, and the dream is dead. Sad. New York injuries. You got Mitchell Robinson's getting up to speed. He's actually out in this upcoming game. The Josh Hart injury is actually super interesting to me because it's a nerve injury, and I've got history with my own nerve injuries, and these things suck. Like, he can't feel the top of his hand on his shooting hand, and he's going to work through that all season. He's a tough guy, and some of the efficiency stuff with him, I think it's if you're looking for a reason why, if you can't feel the back of the top of your hand, you might have a hard time shooting a basketball. But he did have his first big game, and he's out for this next game. I believe I had that in my news somewhere. He's out. Yeah, that's right. He's out. But he had 14 points, 1 triple, 9 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal in 26 minutes. I think this is where he's going to be. And I think there will be value there. I don't think he's worth dropping just yet. And it's going to be hard, and maybe he's already been dropped. But I do think he's like a top 100 guy this season. And if maybe he gets healthy, which I kind of doubt that the nerve issue will resolve itself, at least within the next few months, but maybe I'm wrong. Then you can talk about, would he be a solid mid-round guy if, say, like OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges, who are both cleaning up right now, if either of those dudes got hurt, Josh Hart would have the potential, I think, of being something of what he was last season, but it's not going to happen this year. Anunoby, top 30 to 40. Mikal Bridges, top 15 to 25. I love this because Mikal Bridges, we're always ahead on Mikal Bridges kind of by default, even when we don't want to be. And here he is just cleaning up, with the big minutes, the big points. Everything looks great here. He's shooting way too rich. This is going to come back 55 from the field, 87.5 from the foul line. It's sell high territory for Mikal Bridges, and you probably already knew that. But be a little picky here. I think that he and Anunoby are the kinds of guys that Mike Brown wants to see the ball go towards. And I think the interesting thing with Karl Anthony Towns is the team collectively is having to now kind of get the ball back to him. And it didn't happen naturally. So that might be your first clue as to where the offense is tilting things. Like Jalen Brunson ain't getting rid of the ball, so it's Karl Anthony Towns has kind of got to rip it out of their cold, dead hands or pout to the media or have the media pout for him. Towns dealing with an injury himself, has a combined top 30 line in the last 2 games. And one of them, pardon me, I got that wrong. It was a top 30 and a top 5 line, but the top 5 line was the first, hey, it's Cat and this is good line. And it's been nice lately. So if you didn't like the injury reports, if you didn't like drafting Cat at all, which would kind of be this guy right here, but I had to do it anyway based on what my draft slot was in a lot of these high stakes contests. And I'll take it. I actually think it's actually okay. But if the injury reports and the lack of productivity early on had you worried, it has been turning around. So yay, Cat. Utah at Boston. Injuries. Walker Kessler returning to get his left shoulder tested. Returning to Utah, that had all sorts of bad written all over it. And this also kept him out of the preseason. And shoulders are just like, ask Brandon Miller about it. When a shoulder gets messed up, it generally leaves a mark. And at the same time, Utah is so weird right now. Like maybe they're pre-tanking. It's very possible that that's what this is. But at the same time, it just doesn't feel like there's too many different things. Like, for example, Lauri Markkanen is getting put out there heavy minutes, like heavy, just like almost like, why are we doing this? 36.7 minutes for Lauri Markkanen, who, by the way, is sitting on a top 8 to 16 start, ranked in the B150 at 37 and 29. And I was breathing into a bag doing that. ADP 60 to 100. I think he fell in one high stakes draft to like 90 or something. And I was like, oh my God. And we got him in a lot of places, and that is good for business, but it's not going to feel good at any point in time. I think even if he gets to like 50 straight games played, I'm going to be breathing into a bag, asking myself, why did I do that? But so far, so very good for Lauri Markkanen. And Keontae George on a top 30 to 55 start with 34 minutes, a boatload of stats, 41.4% shooting from the field, 92.6% from the foul line. And that number, I'm kind of looking at it both ways. Like, yeah, it's coming back, and that's a big driver of his value. And so theoretically making him a sell high. Theoretically, Isaiah Collier coming back from assignment and playing in this next game. We'll watch this very closely, obviously, but like theoretically pushing him toward being a sell high. But I'm looking at that 92.6%. I'm looking at that as that's proof this guy can shoot. And at some point in time, I think the field goal shooting might not be as much of a problem for him as it been historically in the past. And when we've seen them do less with Keontae George, this has actually worked out in his favor. There might be a tipping point for Keontae George where he's no longer this free throw or probably field goal liability where, kind of getting a chucker label associated with him. So it's good for Keontae George. He is going to be at least, I think, a top 75 guy the rest of the way. I would not sell high on Keontae George. I don't think you're going to get the value in return. If anything, I'd be trying to reverse engineer this as like a reverse buy low, or we've got to come up with a better name for that one. But Keontae George, if their GM thinks that the Isaiah Collier thing is a mess, float a reasonable offer and see if you can kind of tap in. I would probably go in like, say, the top 75 range, which is generally like almost maybe the answer to every question here is the top 75 range, but see if you can do something like that. 75 with some issues, some mommy daddy issues. I don't know. What do we got here? We got, that's a lot. I had actually a lot on Keontae George that I'll just going to pass through because I think I got the point across. The rest of the group in Utah is bad right now. I don't even, it's the whole lot of them. It's Taylor Hendricks, it's Kyle Filipowski, it's Bryce Sensabaugh, Ace Bailey, Walter Clayton. Yusuf Nurkic has outplayed these guys and might be worth more consideration like right now in the now. This is where I don't understand what Utah is doing. And I guess maybe it makes sense if, if you feel like Hendricks isn't actually like adding as much value as he could theoretically add. I think with Filipowski, the fact he didn't play in the preseason tells me that there is some kind of injury at play. And whenever I'd watch film, we're talking in summer league a couple months ago, athletically you go, okay, it's all there. Like, there's more explosion than you expected to see. In fact, when he came into the league, my first thought was kind of like, what is this dude? Like, he's not a big man that's lumbering, and he's stealing the ball and running down and dunking it. And there's just athleticism there you didn't expect. This year, I'm looking at him. I'm like, that dude's slow. He's lumbering. He looks like your classic lumbering center. He had a dunk chance in last night's game wide open, and he just completely back ironed that thing. And it was because he didn't have the explosion he probably thought he had. So if it turns out we find out about an injury for Kyle Filipowski, and they talk about that as they did with Walker Kessler 2 seasons ago, and they're like, oh, by the way, he had a serious ass elbow injury. Nobody took the time to report or care about. And I'll take my shot right now at both streaming platforms and also RSNs, not this media ecosystem. Like 10, 15 years ago, we had more news than we have today. Right now, it feels like there's 5 newsbreakers working the league, and that's it. Rant over Boston, who is going to play Utah tonight. You got a lot of struggles there. You got Jaylen Brown chucking. This was my concern with this team, is that Jaylen Brown would think he had a license to do whatever the hell he wants. It's generally how he operates. He's got 4 turnovers per game. He's doing fine-ish in an 8-cat setting with top 50 value, but that 100 in 9-cat settings is annoying. Derek White hitting just 30.8% of his shots. When you look at the unhealthy box score associated with certain players or teams, it's a window into how well something is doing. Derek White does not do this. This is not Derek White basketball. He will be better. This is a buy low. He's a top 75 to 100 value right now. He won't hit 30.8, shots percent of his shots all season. He'll be up over 40 for sure. And then some. And Peyton Pritchard, same thing, 41.1% shooting. That's not as surprising for a guy like him, but he probably can do a lot better. And just outside of the top 100, he was a buzzy. Everybody was racing to get themselves some Peyton Pritchard. I mean, I saw it. I took a lot of time on film, and I thought I was very excited. And I just, too many people as excited and too many players that I had ranked higher to get any Peyton Pritchard. But this is the thing you didn't want to have happen, with Jaylen Brown chucking at a 32.5% usage rate, and he can barely dribble the basketball. Nemish Keita doing just fine. Minutes aren't great, but you know what? Top 90 to 122 minutes per game. I'll take it, because that means he's not going to get hurt as fast. 8.3 points, 7.6 boards, 0.7 steals, 1.6 blocks, 63% from the field. It plays, and then if he scales up and he gets 25, 28 minutes, you're looking at a top 60, 70 guy. Nemish Keita, just keep it going, buddy. I love it. I love it. Josh Minott was very, very trendy a couple days ago as an ad. It's like Boston started playing well with him in the lineup. He was at the center of it all. This is after he didn't even play in the first game, and then he was just kind of in and out of the rotation. So we got a little Deke action from Joe Mazzulla there. I hate you for that, Joe Mazzulla, because I did have to drop Josh Minott in a few places, and then everybody overbid for him here on the flip side. So I guess that worked out for me, but Minott top 90 to 125 on the season in 22 minutes per game, 8.3 points, 6.8 boards. It's the triples, 1 triple, 1.5 steals, 0.5 blocks, your 3 cash counters there. It's mediocre percentages, but 8 and 7 with the 3.0 cash counters, that gets you that value. That's why cash counters are so important in fantasy leagues. Dallas at Houston. Anthony Davis didn't want to go to Mexico? Question mark. I don't know. I don't doubt that he's hurt. I mean, that's the big concern with him. Left calf strain, low grade. And there's always a thing with Anthony Davis. It's like we could every part of his body's hurt. Derek Lively's missing time. Daniel Gafford got 1 game back, presumably because Anthony Davis can't play, is my guess, as they rushed Gafford back. He was active in the popcorn stats, couldn't get a defensive stat. So theoretically, you could play Gafford if both these guys stay out. That's definitely in play. Gafford had a first-round stretch for a couple weeks last season that was great for us. And so he has the stat set. I don't know if he's healthy enough to survive a basketball game, but you know what? If he's announced as being the starter or he's playing and these two guys are out, I think you definitely give Daniel Gafford at least a look in a short-term scenario. But Davis, I guess, this can all be packaged as good news. And I, like with Cat, I'm stuck with Davis in a bunch of places. And I'm like, okay, based on where he was drafted. But I'm hoping this is just like going to Mexico, going to whatever 8,000 feet it is in Mexico City, the promo, the getting in and out of the country, all that stuff. It seems like an ideal time to rest the guy. And especially with the entire Luka thing. If there's more games on the other side of this, it wouldn't be surprising to me. But a bit of a bummer start. And I was pretty high on Dallas coming out the chute. You got all sorts of efficiency issues. And this is where you do need a real point guard. Cooper Flagg, great player. He's going to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. All the things. 14 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists with all the point guard talk. Just outside of the top 100, 37.3% for the field. It's a sick box score. And, same thing with like PJ Washington. He's got 34 minutes, top 125 and 8 cat, 190 and 9 cat value, and 59.1% from the foul line. Good numbers elsewhere. 14 points, triple and more, 7.7 boards, 3 assists, two defensive stats. So PJ Washington kind of getting it done. Needs to do better from the foul line. And overall, this team just needs better play. And you've seen that a little bit lately with D'Angelo Russell. He's played some late round ball over the last 3 games. The normal D'Angelo Russell assortment of decent popcorn stats, no defensive stats and bad percentages. But I think more of that rather than less of that, more kind of guard-like playmaker players that they can get on the floor that can command some attention and keep this from being sort of a dribble pass to Anthony Davis. And then, Cooper Flagg's got to navigate all those bigs, flying around the pattern. It's a little gummed up, for lack of a better term. Klay Thompson all the way off the radar. Detroit at Memphis. Because we're going to see Ja Morant back, and there's kind of like a dead coach bounce, and then Ja Morant's going to probably be pissed off. And everybody involved is going to be like, Ja, we want a 40-point game. Go out there, do your thing, Ja. Or it's so screwed up that everything just explodes even better. That's a good question. I'm laughing at the chat in case you're wondering. Detroit, though, like Tobias Harris questionable with the right ankle sprain. Jaden Ivey is still weeks out. Did I miss the Rockets? I missed the Rockets. I'm so sorry. I'm going to rewind the tape, and we're going to go back and do those Houston Rockets. Those pesky Houston Rockets. I actually noticed I missed a team in my write-up, and I patched that up this morning, and I figured there was another one just hanging out there. Let's do it, though. In Rocket Land, Alperen Sengun was getting drafted super aggressively in high stakes, sometimes at the turn of round 1, round 2, settling in a sort of top 20-ish posture to start the season. I think the percentages are actually in a decent place for him. 78% from the foul line, 8.2 attempts per game, 47% from the field, shooting the 3 ball. If we ask the question, did Sengun improve his shooting? The answer would be probably maybe not just yes, but definitively yes. But that free throw number could wiggle. It's so early in the year. If it goes down to 70 on the type of volume that he's going to have, it's going to make those big plays on Alperen Sengun not as profitable as it stands right now, just based on how this offense is flowing and their commitment to using bigs and Alperen Sengun getting to bully around power forwards and all the different things associated with the 2 big lineup. So far, so good, I think, with Sengun. And we'll have to see how this all pans out, because I think this team is going to face some adversity this season. If you look down their roster and you go, Let's just go like Tari Eason, Reed Shepherd, Steven Adams, Clint Capella. Like, let's just leave it at those 4 dudes. This group has some injury risk associated with it. They're older. They're not, with Capella and Adams, they're not as compelling. Shepard's had a hard time breaking free and getting loose from various coverages, and Okogie's got issues on the offensive end. If anything happens to those 4, and Tari Eason, pardon me, Eason not even being able to play in back-to-backs, this team gets thin real fast. And you're now relying on whatever 37-year-old Kevin Durant, I think is what he is, to be healthy and be very freaking good. And you're relying on Jabari Smith, who, by the way, is finally doing things in fantasy leagues after a big game in the last one. You're relying on Jabari Smith to truly step up and be a guy that's kind of like, you need him to be a top 25 guy. You need him to be a top 50 guy, not in fantasy terms, in reality terms, if any of those bad things happen. And there at the middle stands Şengün, and Şengün doesn't get tested defensively right now because of certain lineups that are on the floor. If Şengün starts getting picked apart defensively and you start to see the Houston Rockets start to lose games in relation to expectations, that's when the bad vibes set in. That's what I'm watching for out of Houston. But in the meantime, Jabari Smith, top 40 value in 9 cat leagues, probably top 70 in 8 cat leagues. Maybe not. No, what do I got? Quickly toggle. Yep, that was correct. And great defensive numbers. All the numbers are great. I would expect some of those numbers to come back, but maybe we are finally seeing the Jabari Smith bump where he's, instead of being a 125 or a 150, he's more of a 75 or 100. I would sell high, but I might be a little bit picky with that. Tari Eason finally kind of getting back to where we thought he would be on a per game basis, but still not great late round value, 23.7 minutes per game. We need more for us to be able to put up with that. Reed Shepherd, same thing. The valuation is top 140-ish and at 21.4 minutes per game. This is truly rock bottom for him. Don't get me wrong. And this is one of the reasons that I was both safe. I felt safe ranking him high and even drafting him, though I did not draft as much of him as I could have because of the field goal percentage concerns. But like 39%, I doubt that's going any lower. Defensively, we've seen him put up numbers in the past. He's probably going to be fine there. Really, I think it's a question is, how does Houston decide they want to integrate him into the action? They want to make a point to getting him involved with certain actions that are going to be complementary to his lack of speed and burst, but give him the freedom once he's open to be able to do the things that he's good at, which is dribble, probe, and shoot and find the right play to make. And Reed Shepherd's not a bad basketball player. It's just right now they don't do a lot in Houston to make him kind of good at, what he does best, for lack of a better term. It's a lot of Şengün stuff. It's a lot of KD stuff. And Reed Shepherd just runs back and forth. Once they flip that switch, I think you start to see Reed Shepherd get some bigger lines. So altogether, if he plays like this all year, he finishes probably, I'd say, just outside of the top 100. But if that switch flips, he finds himself with a top 75 season. And if everything works perfectly and he has some sort of mid-season epiphany, it would maybe be a little bit better than that. But it's that one thing. Like, if you're going to just tell Reed Shepherd that he has to break down his man one-on-one, he's not going to do that. He needs a screen. He needs some motion. He needs some secondary playmaking opportunities. And right now, Houston's just concerned about Alperen Şengün and Kevin Durant and everybody else getting out of the way. Steven Adams, top 100-ish basketball, especially in 9-cat formats. If you need a center that just exists, Steven Adams is your guy. Amen Thompson, super disappointing to start the year. Also being drafted at the round 1, round 2 turn sometimes, in particular after the Fred VanVleet news came out. And it's just the 69% from the foul line on 5.2 attempts, 0.2 triples, 0.2 blocks, 0.8 steals. All these things have created a mess. He's a top 200 guy right now, and clearly way more valuable, clearly by low territory. But also you're starting to see some of the offshoots of what, when you have a Kevin Durant and you have an Alperen Şengün, what does it do to an Amen Thompson? They need to balance this offense out, and it can't just be all Şengün all the time, because if it is, yeah, great, he's effective, but you need to make sure, like, you can get 80% out of Alperen Şengün, and your offense and your team will be much better if somebody like Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd are productive and are in the flow. it's like Şengün has no problem getting the flow. Kevin Durant has no problem getting the flow. These two guys are kind of almost even arguing on the floor about who's going to be the primary action on the way down the floor. There was some funny stuff with that. I can't wait for that to extrapolate and grow. But they will figure this out. I think adversity usually brings these things out. Right now, they're just kind of establishing their first punch, which is Alfred Şengün and Kevin Durant. Okay, back to Detroit at Memphis. Tobias Harris, questionable right ankle sprain. Jaden Ivey still weeks out. So Cade Cunningham got things going in the right direction. The efficiencies were bad. He had some big games, and he had a top 20 week. So I don't think I'm worried about Cade Cunningham. I do worry about his team staying really good, so he doesn't have to do too much, so he doesn't deal with so many efficiency issues. That could sap the value out of him this year. It's a longer-term trend we'll have to keep an eye on. We saw signs of life out of Duncan Robinson. He's finally hitting shots, so he's kind of in a deep league conversation, which was way better than his outside of the top 200, 300 conversation, despite getting 32 minutes per game. So he's clearly a part of what they do, and finally now hitting some shots. It'll be up and down for him this season. Now, somebody who's way more interesting, Ausar Thompson, really disappointing to start the year. It's the 54.2% from the foul line, but it's also just not enough stuff. 14.7 boards, 3.5 assists. That's not paying the bills, for somebody drafted in the top 50 or 60. So you get the bad free throw plus low numbers overall. And I don't want to say that it's expected. It's expected to the degree this guy doesn't have a ton of NBA experience overall. The way that this all was supposed to pan out for him is that he's so big and athletic and so good that he would sort of overwhelm the numbers, and then the free throw shooting would not be as much of a drag. And overall, you were taking a chance on somebody who's almost like transformational in a way. And that's just not the case right now. And let's just say it's probably 2 to 3 weeks before we can say with certainty that either he is taking that step or he's not taking that step. And Ausar was one of those players, is like when he was available, I was happy to grab him in a sense, but I wasn't really thrilled with the ROI based on where he was drafted. So I'm not like overexposed there, but the places I have him, I'm looking at this, I'm going, this might not work out great. Anyway, on the Memphis side, so we get Ja back. Zach Edey just got back into the G League, so good on him. Cedric Coward is a player that really big bids. I mean, people went nuts for Coward, and I get it. I was a huge Coward fan coming out of the draft. Projected him fairly well in Memphis, and then he missed all his preseason threes, and that was, of course, something to just note that he made all of his threes, and he's still sitting on a massive top 50 to 65 number to start the year. Now, the last 4 games, I think, are closer to reality. He's been a late round value, 27 minutes, 12 points, just under a 3, 6 boards, 3 assists, 1.3 combined defensive stats, 50% from the field, 90% from the foul line. So those percentages are good, right? But the numbers just aren't there. He did so well early on that somebody's looking at that top 50 to 65 number on the year, and they might think they have something better than they really have. Now, Coward might have a big season just based on a few different things. Maybe players get out of the way because Memphis is a big old tire fire. Maybe he just continues to get better as the year goes on and things coalesce the right way. That said, it feels like the more recent valuation is a better number, more accurate number than the overall one. So I might treat him like a top 100 to 125 guy as sort of the upside scenario, and make my choices whether I buy into this or whether I move off of it based on that. Also, with the Morant stuff, I just saw a lot of Ty Jerome out there and thought that probably shouldn't be the case. And there were times where I couldn't add into it because I didn't have enough bodies because too many guys are injured. And so I would back off and think, I want that. But where I could, I added, because if Morant is totally done and they're done with him, and it very much feels like that, this partnership, and even this team, things haven't been right with these guys. Something's not right with Memphis, just flat out. And so I know it's so difficult to trade stars, and these things can take a long time and blah, blah, blah. But like, at what point in time does Morant do something silly and get his, ticket out, so to speak, whether it's through trade or injury or suspension or you name it. And there comes a time where Ty Jerome comes in and gets as many minutes and touches as his body can handle. And that's not unlimited, by the way. I kind of think he's capped out at 27 minutes, 28 minutes. But this is Ty Jerome going top 50, kind of a opportunity here. So do what you can to get Ty Jerome on your roster. Hell, in a deep league, and I don't think this is advisable, but I would be keeping an eye on Scottie Pippen for down the road, because the two of them, they'll get all the touches they can handle when they're healthy, and that will be fun for fantasy GMs. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr., top 75 to 90 on the season. I think I got a question about Jaren Jackson last week, and it was like, no, stay the course. Let's, and it probably feels bad for this last week that nothing has worked out with that. 1.1 blocks, 0.7 steals. The shooting's fine. Normally I'm bagging on Jaren for the shooting. He's hitting 53% from the field, 80% from the foul line. That's great. This means that he's not out there chucking. Now, this system and whatever's going on in the locker room with Memphis, something's not panning out. And maybe we find out that Memphis has decided that the pivot is here and that they're going to just try to market their way out of this group and compile as much as they can get out of this group. And they already moved on from Desmond Bane. And that was actually a really good deal for them. And, maybe there's something to that. And maybe the slow start is all connected to that. It might just be small sample size, and it might just be too many moving pieces and not being good enough as a team. And if you're not going to get 2 blocks, if you're Jaren Jackson, the value goes down real quick. So I would say it's buy low territory, but I would also exercise some degree of caution and be picky as you do this, because it's starting to smell like a lost season in Memphis. Sandy Aldama dipped a little bit, top 125 to 145. He'll be fine. I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to be kind of a top 125 at worst guy on the season, and that's great for where he was drafted. A lot of upside beyond that. I mean, offensively, Aldama looks ready for kind of, quote, the next step. Not like superstardom or anything like that, but like a guy that can kind of consistently put up numbers in the box score that get your attention. Jock Landale has been a late round guy for a little bit. He's got 4 games this week. He's a great kind of plug your nose and put him in the game kind of a guy if you got issues at center. So give him a look. Then we get Sacramento at Denver, Los Angeles at Portland, Miami at Clippers. So we got 3 more games to go as I just see how much voice I need to prepare for. Sacramento, total dumpster fire. I won't get into the Sacramento stuff too deep because we'll be here all day. Malik Monk out for personal reasons. Zach LaVine, questionable lower back soreness for tonight. Schroeder, questionable right hip soreness. Devin Carter, questionable right knee soreness. That's everybody that we are tracking. So a couple things that I just knew to be true heading into the season. Zach LaVine would get as much as he wanted and then some. I also had Zach LaVine ranked uncomfortably high, kind of like Lauri Markkanen, and it just made me feel sick to my stomach because at some point in time, this thing turns south. At some point in time, I think the team gets tired of just giving it to Zach LaVine and getting out of the way. Defensively, Zach LaVine, the minute he gets really, really bad, like sometimes he can crank it up and be like almost average defensively, but that's very rare. Once people get tired of all the shooting and the lack of defense, when's the team implosion coming? Domantas Sabonis has kind of been, prior to the season, sniffing, seeing what's out there. Can he get out of Sacramento? Sabonis hasn't been good so far to start the season, and he's got a hamstring issue as an excuse, and that makes sense. The 2/3 shots at the foul line really hurting him overall volume, down. But like it just was uncomfortable because Zach LaVine is going to have some adversity during the season. At some point in time, Sacramento I don't think they're going to fire Doug. It's not off the table, I don't think, but he's cheap, and that's what's good for management. Ownership is cheap. And I think there's like some sort of fatigue about changing coaches. And frankly, I don't know if they care about this season at all. But visiting G1 Center this weekend, there were a lot of pictures of Vivek all over the building. So they're doing that right. Dennis Schroeder, top 60 to 70 value throughout all this mess. He's been good, and that's not surprising. If you watch him play in Detroit and throughout his career, he's still a great basketball player. was a good pickup for Sacramento. The one that's probably most interesting is Russell Westbrook, because they're just going to give him the ball and get out of the way. It's going to be hilariously, terribly bad. But like in an 8-cat setting, I mean, aside from the fact he's hitting 87.5% from the foul line, that's weird. But, Russell Westbrook used to be a good foul shooter. And then the little man got in his head and he started taking less free throws. And then all of a sudden he's like bad at it. Now, good. Probably an outlier. But whether it's the turnovers, the foul shooting, he just gets the ball and goes. We all know this. And whether it's the injuries or the potential for injuries and time off, Russell Westbrook might just be the guy for the Kings, and it's as Kings gets. But it's in an 8-cat setting. Like, I don't see how you leave him on the wire in an 8-cat setting right now. Keon Ellis all over the board. I think they realized a little bit that they needed him on the floor, but it takes them usually about a month or two before they figure out how good Keon Ellis is. Top 175 to 200 value, while them thinking he's garbage. So you get it with Keon Ellis. He can have value really quick. Denver, we got Denver, and the interesting angle there with Russell Westbrook is a sort of a revenge game. But Denver, they've got Cam Johnson probable and Jamal Murray probable left calf. Jokic has been cranking it up. He won this last week in fantasy leagues, so not much to see there. It's just fun to compete against Victor Wembanyama, or they're competing, we're competing, we're all watching it happen. But Aaron Gordon, top 35 to 45 value in the season. He was outside of the top 200 this week, and that shouldn't be surprising. He had just a massive first week. Plan accordingly, sell high. I mean, you're gonna flip Aaron Gordon to somebody with a top 35 to 45 number next to his name, and that's not what he's gonna do for the rest of the year. So you got to do that like now. Don't wait till next week. Get the Aaron Gordon's offers out there now, and don't be picky. Bring back a 125, bring back a 100, bring back anything, because pretty soon these are going to be drop numbers. Jamal Murray, top 15 to 20 start to the season. Everything's going great. The shooting numbers are a little bit rich. So this comes back to like second, third round, but this is exactly what we were thinking might happen. And another uncomfortably high ranked player with injury history up the wazoo. Peyton Watson's been fairly good. It's very deep leaguey numbers, but Christian Brown is maybe even the story of this team right now, not getting the efficiency, not getting the volume, just at the bottom of the top 200. This is a guy who projects out in the 60 to 80 range easy because of the efficiencies and what he brings to the floor. And this is a team that likes him. So there's very much buy low potential here. He might be available on waiver wires. He's not going to be this bad all season. It's probably just small sample size, everybody healthy in Denver to start the season. Cam Johnson kind of figuring things out and also viable to pass to. Cam Johnson also struggling outside of the top 200 to the bottom of the top 250 even, with practically no production. So it's a little bit wonky. It's probably a little bit Jamal Murray heavy right now in Denver, but that's all it takes. And if you're not going to hit whatever Brown hit from 2-point land last year, was like 58%. The value is going to evaporate. So that takes us to Los Angeles at Portland in our penultimate game to cover. And the Lakers just coming off the back-to-back. You got DeAndre Ayton, questionable back spasm, so we'll watch out for Luka as well. Gabe Vincent out for a while. LeBron, I really think LeBron's coming back mid-September. So that is just my read on it. Luka, freaking outstanding. Probably a sell high, but like it's Lucas, so you don't really want to do that, I'm guessing. And I don't blame you, but I mean, he's kind of an injury guy. And also, is he going to really average 41.3 points per game all year, 11.5 boards, 8.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 0.3 blocks? Eventually, LeBron comes back. You guys get the point. I mean, if you're going to do deals like that, they better just be really smart. And you don't need me to tell you that. Austin Reeves, top 5 to 7. And, this is again where you really have to believe in your intel and your projections and get ahead of everybody else on a player that everybody wants. He's averaging 30 plus and just stupid numbers. And if you want to ask me if he's a sell high, yeah, he's a sell high. But what was my B150 rank on Austin Reeves? I'm forgetting off of the top of my head. Austin Reeves, you were a 15 in 8 cat and 12 in 9 cat. So That's where I think he finishes, folks. If you think you can, parlay a deal somehow that gets something better than that, then you do that. But it's going to be hard for you guys to find that. So that will be that regarding Austin Reeves. Jake LaRavia, talked about on the last show. It was bad early and it was good late. It's early in the year, but it sometimes takes teams a little bit to figure out what they have. 13 points, 1.7 triples, 5 boards, 2.6 assists, 1.4 steals, 60% from the field. This is good. The foul line's not good. That's 57% from the foul line. The steals number got good after last night. So that's good. The B150 number for him was 94, 92. So, basically combine that, you get a 93 rank, and he's just outside of the top 100 right now. LeBron hasn't come back. They got to figure out how good he is before I get super confident about this rank. The fact that they're playing Marcus Smart as much as they are, and the fact that they didn't really go to LaRavia early on, it just reeks of like the money plays, and, sometimes the best players don't play. If they figure this out, this is going to be fun. For us, it's the free throw makes the overall pop not where I like it to be, and sort of like a B150 kind of nobody had him kind of a play. We were drafting Jake LaRavia like 250 or places in bigger leagues. So LaRavia, it'd be a lot funner if he had a better free throw number. But he and DeAndre Ayton are probably the other players on this squad where you have questions. DeAndre Ayton, top 130 to 175, 31 minutes a game. Just 1.3 combined defensive stats. Not enough stats to offset, some of the disappointing categories. So DeAndre Ayton, we'll be watching him. I don't think we're at drop territory with DeAndre Ayton, but with Jackson Hayes, we might be closer to a timeshare than anybody wants to admit at this point in time. In Portland's super fun right now. You got Shaedon Sharpe, probable left calf, just something to keep an eye out. Scoot Henderson could be out a little bit more. Matisse Thybulle, Blake Wesley out for a while. Not earth-shattering stuff here. This team is this team. Drew Holiday, top 30 start. And it's great because you watch Drew Holiday in the preseason, you go, hey, he's got zip on his fastball. This has been a top 40 guy his entire career, minus the late Boston years. Why not Drew Holiday? 48% shooting from the field. It's a little rich, but everything else is there. It's in a good spot. I don't see any reason why Drew Holiday doesn't continue. Whoever drafted Drew Holiday got a steal. And yeah, there's risk, and yeah, he's old, and yeah, maybe they get full and Scoot Henderson comes back and they just kind of like too many players and not as much value for Drew Holiday. But I really just think he's going to cruise. Top 60 is probably the right number for you to make evaluations in any sort of sell high deals or reverse buy lows. Jeremy Grant, top 35 to 45 value in his 28 minutes, 50% shooting there, generally good numbers. He's got great foul shooting, 88.6% from the foul line, 7 attempts per game. Those numbers are rich. This value is coming back. Jeremy Grant may or may not be a part of the plans, but the difference between Jeremy Grant this year and last is they actually kind of need him this year. In prior years, they needed him to tank, and that's what he did for like 5 straight seasons. Denny Avdia, kind of okay-ish. It's just the kind of probably the turnovers are a bummer. He's right where you drafted him in 8 cat and 9 cat. The 4 turnovers per game is got him up in a 90 value. So that's not great for him. Klingon slowed down a little bit, but he's still rock solid at top 50 to 70. Tamani Kamara, a little slow. He's outside of the top 100, 40% shooting from the field. So we haven't really seen him come on yet. 1.3 steals. He can do better than that there. And his overall body of work can get better. Not worried about him. And it might even be the case that knee issue has slowed him down a little bit, but just some garden variety slow start there for Tamani Kamara. Shaedon Sharpe still struggling with the efficiencies. He's up to 35% on 17 attempts. And this is the big problem. He's even getting boosted by 95% from the foul line. It's just the lack of versatility in the stat set, the low minutes per game. Maybe it happens for him this year, but those issues about stat set are not going away. And that's why Shaedon Sharpe is never kind of the top guy on my list. That takes us to the last game of the night. We got the Norman Powell revenge game. He's questionable with a groin strain. Miami at Clippers. Norman Powell, awesome in his 3 games, but he's got to stay on the floor for all of that to pencil out. Bam Adebayo, top 40 start. That's pretty good. However, I'll throw the however out, as I always do with Bam Adebayo. 34 minutes, that's a little much for him, but that's okay. Let's just leave that at that. 1 steal, 0.3 blocks per game. 44.6% from the field. Now he's hitting 90% from the foul line on 5.2 attempts. The foul line's coming back. The blocks are probably going to improve, but it's a kind of a sad state of affairs, highlighting how people kind of overrate Bam Adebayo on defense. He's just not that guy, guys. And the other thing is he's basically a 3-point shooter now. So he's going to have you low in the field goal. Maybe he gets good at threes. He's hitting 2.3 per game right now, but is it really worth it? So while it's great for him right now, I was looking at Adebayo as like a 60 and a 70 guy this season. And so he's ahead of that, but I would probably take my position than this position. Jaime Jaquez, top 70, and it's just cruising, guys. I think he does this all season long. Not a lot to say there other than good job. And congratulations if you drafted him. Andrew Wiggins, back to being a top 100 value. What else is new? Khalil Ware, just outside of the top 150. Look, I'm not going to tell you to drop him. I think you got to see this out. He's got stat set potential. If anything happens to Bam, he's going to step in and have a big role. This, I think, is just unfortunately Miami's give it to him year, where they're going to just make life hell for him in an attempt to kind of make him a better player over the long term and coach out some of these issues. So it's just bad timing. I think a lot of people treated it as his upside year, that this is the year he's going to explode, and it's probably not the case, though things can change, on a moment's notice, hence why you hold. And if it goes like this, depending on your league size, if like, say, 125 to 100 doesn't really play for you, and that's kind of where this is going, that's when I would start thinking about a drop, probably like 3 to 4 weeks from now. He's got that much potential. That's when you're going to hold on. But as far as like the ADP and where he was drafted, not a great start, and it might not pan out for him. Davion Mitchell fell to the bottom of the top 200, so he's not good right now. He might be good later, but not right now. Nikola Jovic is also down there with him, and it's not panning out for him, and he's got holes in his stat set, so when it gets bad, it gets real bad quick. Actually, the guy that's producing, Simon Fontecchio, top 115 to 135 in 21 minutes. Not much else. Drew Smith, top 160, so those guys are outperforming the aforementioned, and that says a lot. The Clippers, to wrap this up, Kawhi Leonard wants to play a lot all of a sudden, and Bradley Beal is back. Beal's only getting 20 minutes a game, and I don't know how much more he's going to get, guys. If he's fully healthy, I don't know if he's going to get a lot of minutes for this squad. So I'm not personally adding Bradley Beal anywhere. But as far as Kawhi goes, he's been a back end of the first round guy. Same with James Harden. Ivica Zubac has improved by a round or two. He's kind of put a big old gap between he and Brook Lopez. We'll see how that plays out for the rest of the year. John Collins had a slow week. Not just because of the 2 games played last week, but he was actually just kind of slow. And the Clippers have been a little weird to start the year, and we'll see what they look like tonight. I'm not giving up on John Collins probably anytime soon. He's at a 115 to 150 start, and John Collins-y numbers, but 24 minutes a game. It feels like he's got a 27-minute per game future, 29 if you see some injuries strike. And I do think that he will start to get more consistent on a night-to-night basis. And this is the John Collins experience in a nutshell. And it just takes a little bit of a match. And like last year, for those few weeks that prior to the end of the season where he was no longer good anymore, for those few weeks, he was great. And I don't want to say it was worth it, but during those 3, 4, 5 weeks, it felt like it was worth it. And I guess that's not a hell of a sales pitch, but we'll take it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this show. Thank you for sticking in. We're going to get in and out under the 2-hour mark, and that makes me happy. The last thing I want to ask you guys to do, make sure if you're watching this episode on Twitter, if you're new to the show, not all the episodes are here. So make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast feed through your favorite player, whichever one it is. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get linked into the website. We're making so many changes to the website, and there are going to be so many tools for free that are going to just distinguish us from everybody else. I cannot wait to release them. So get comfortable with the website. Get over there. Consider a membership. The cheat sheet alone is worth the price of admission. So check that. It's all these guys that all they do is work all day on fantasy, and they blurb and they just do all the things. They do all the heavy, the push-ups, so to speak. And then they distill all of that knowledge into a cheat sheet for you. So that before you start the games in a day, you can know who your ads, who your drops, everything you want to know about a fantasy situation. You don't got to sift through threads. You don't got to sift through Twitter stuff. It is beautiful. So go check that out. Check out the app. That's going to do it, guys. I've been on my feet talking for 3 hours now. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to get this article out on the waiver wire. Check that out. It'll probably be out in the next 30 to 45 minutes. I'll put out a link for you guys to be able to ask me questions. I'll answer a few on Twitter, and then I'll move it on over to Discord. Also get to the website, click the link on the side for Discord so you can get hooked into the Discord where we have a ton of Q&A going on and a bunch of chatter that you guys are going to love. That's going to do it for Fantasy NBA today. We will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.